By now you've heard of the AR-15. It's a style of rifle that's been used in many high-profile mass shootings. It's become the target of anti-gun legislation. But here in Washington state, new changes are in place that will impact all gun owners regardless of weapon type. Let's take a look at some of those changes. In January of this year, Initiative 1639 took effect. It's a measure passed by a majority of Washington voters in 2018. New laws that rolled out in two phases. The first was the first of this year. The legal age to buy a semi-automatic rifle is raised to 21. Over the summer, the rest of the laws went into effect. Buyers will now have to undergo enhanced background checks and waiting periods before purchasing a semi-auto rifle. They must also meet new training requirements. And this next change, well, it applies to all firearms. Gun owners can now be held criminally liable if they fail to secure a pistol or a rifle under certain conditions. These new changes make Washington state a state with the nation's toughest gun legislation. Let's see how it compares to the rest of the country. According to the Giffords Law Center, a nonprofit that tracks and advocates for gun legislation, Washington is one of 9 states that require universal background checks. Their records show that 8 of the 50 states have some sort of ban on assault rifles altogether. These new laws here in Washington state have been criticized by the NRA and the Second Amendment Fund. They've even filed a lawsuit in an attempt to overturn the legislation.